So my first question, I think, actually is partially answered by that video, but I would like to hear both of you expand on this. Really, why F1 and T-Mobile?
I actually think it's part of a much larger evolution that's been happening in our organization over the last few years. I joined T-Mobile 6 years ago. At the time, we were primarily a baseball sponsor. We were using that property as a marketing vehicle, talking about our brand, talking about our postpaid offerings. But really, with the rollout of 5G, we've actually started to evolve our approach to partnerships, and it is imperative for us to really use these to demonstrate 5G leadership. So with that, we put a lot more focus around making sure the network is actually playing a crucial role in some of these relationships. And Vegas was interesting. I mean, almost kind of in parallel, you had the Liberty Media acquisition. We were all in the pandemic, went from Tiger King to Drive to Survive, and this thing that we were, somewhat unfamiliar with started to really gain a lot of popularity here in the U.S. So when they approached us last August and said, hey, we want to do this incredible event, and it was only last August, we want to put on this incredible event. We're expecting 105,000 spectators a day with congestion in the hotels. If you've ever been to a other Formula One event, connectivity is a huge pain point. And it's critical for them to ensure that the guest experience was strong, but then also with development of the new paddock building, they also had a network that can power back of house operations and staff needs and the business elements of putting on an event like this.
Just from a pure marketing standpoint, you think about the narrative and the story that we're able to tell and weave, and we're able to tell this amazing thing about something that consumer or business doesn't understand. The network is invisible to people, but when you can showcase it on a stage and a platform like F1 and know that we are the partner, the wireless provider for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, that is a really powerful narrative that you're able to build and weave into content that goes well beyond what just F1. The storytelling that we're doing because of this will transcend a lot of our communications, both for business customers, but also it starts to tell just the average consumer, wow, the network is as strong as it is, and they can power F1. It must be good enough for me too. So that's the power of how you bring everything together.
Super interesting, and I remember, in preparing for this, one of the really interesting things that you both spoke about was all the stakeholders, sort of in the T-Mobile universe, and how you guys feel that the F1 partnership really sort of speaks to them all in different ways. If you want to share with the audience a little about that, I found that fascinating.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, again, just the network and the solutions that 5G and new emerging products that we're launching because of our network capabilities. So the way that we're kind of structured, we've got multiple business groups that we're now supporting on a day-to-day basis. So for something like F1, you've got such a massive cultural moment. You've got an overlap with business decision makers. I mean, really looking enterprise-wide at how can we ensure that this property and this platform is delivering for all of our needs versus, again, where maybe 5-6 years ago we would have been much more focused on one area.
You just think about the branding aspect of that. So from an execution standpoint, we had to bring the brand to life from everything from a CEO executive suite in the paddock to a business suite in the Covell suites, all the way over, and if you haven't seen it, it's unmissable. It's called T-Mobile Zone at the Sphere. It is, I think, one of the biggest activations we probably ever have done as a brand. And I say it's unmissable because it happens to be at the Sphere, and we have content on the Sphere, and then we have a stage and live performances that go on part of the whole event. It is like so on how we see our brand and how we want to participate. It just, from a branding level, is one of the most unique and powerful things I've ever worked on. And I've been at the company 13 years, and I've worked on a heck of a lot of stuff. And this, seeing the brand come to life in the physical nature of how you can express your brand. When you see, we call it Turn 5G. When you see our brand literally on broadcast, it's like, oh my gosh, look at where we've come from.
I'll build on that a little bit. So we joke on our team, typically when we're bringing Peter ideas or activations, and he's well known to give us this always helpful direction of, it's not big enough, we need to go bigger. And this was probably the first time that I think we brought him something, and Didn't hear a peep. Sorry, Peter. Cat got your tongue there?
It's like, the funny thing is, like, we basically just finished our content, like, literally on Monday. So it's not like, we started this a year ago, but like, this whole event, it came together, I would say, in the last 6 weeks, just trying to pull everything together, all the different elements that are required, down to big details and very small details that we've had to create.
To me, there's almost a subtext there, which is that I think a lot of, I run a startup with only 300 people. We pride ourselves on being nimble, but we have to be nimble, right? But for a large company to be able to be that nimble, and obviously you're not running the event, but you are a huge part of it, to be able to adapt over that 6-week period, I mean, it says a lot about T-Mobile, I think.
I mean, one of the things about us, I mean, while we are a large corporation, Fortune 40 company, we act like a startup, and we approach everything that way because, number one, to be part of culture, you can't be sitting back and like leaning back. You have to lean in, and you have to be willing to change. I mean, we're like literally creating content right now, last night, I mean, and it's gonna be live in the next few hours. It's this whole 3 and 4 days, however you kind of like look at it, is a day of content creation, both what we're doing from our internal studio teams, massively creating content. We have amazing drone footage from last night. It's like, blew me away when I looked at it right before I came up on stage. We've isolated, I think we have 8 TikTok creators who will be building content uniquely around their experiences at F1, which is just a different point of view. I mean, we're kind of giving our brand to people and putting it in their voice, and we scale all different types of individuals to do content for us.
Yeah, it's super interesting. One of the things that we think a lot about over time is how do we not just hit the hardcore fan of a given sport, and through these methods, it really seems like the total audience for what you're doing with F1 is going to be much larger than that.
Absolutely. I don't even think we looked at this. Formula One is definitely the star of the show, but we talked about this internally as it's just the biggest sports and entertainment event of the year. It's very rare that you can enter, the U.S. and really steal the thunder from something like Super Bowl, and we feel pretty confident that this just might do that. The other thing, I think, just going back to your previous question, the thing that I appreciate most about, working at T-Mobile and the team that I'm on is just the support that we get cross-functionally from different leadership, really understanding the power of these partnerships and what we're able to do. And that's anything from someone like Peter on the creative side to now even our tech folks who are really using these properties to help push the envelope of innovation. And something like the PGA of America, which we just announced a couple weeks ago, it's rooted in innovation, and those guys are going to help us get smarter about some of the use cases and benefits of the network and just help us push the envelope on what we can do for them.
Amazing. So you referenced PGA of America, obviously your big partners there, big partners with MLB. How do you, and obviously, the arena here, how do you think about sort of the general ecosystem, and where are you kind of looking for through lines where you're sort of like doubling up and tripling down, and where do you look for maybe F1 brought in like a different slant or a different angle?
I think what's unique about the way we've built the portfolio is each property supports or solves a different pain point or a different need. I think a great example of a partnership that's worked really well is our relationship with Major League Baseball. We've been with them for 10 years, just re-up for another 6. The reason being is they've been able to evolve with us. So in 2013, we had a very specific need on driving brand perceptions. Then we went a little bit deeper on, customer benefits, and they rolled out free MLB TV. And then you look, a few years back when we tried to expand our presence in rural America, you had things like Little League and Minor League Baseball. And now, as we start to look to the next 6 years, building the network that will enable the automated balls and strikes system is something that we're hard at work at and ready to kind of roll that out and really put the network front and center within the sport of baseball in a very authentic way.
Very cool.
I was just going to say, you talked about audiences. And the one thing, specifically about F1, there's a couple things. One, it's a cultural moment. It's not just about the race. This is a big moment in the U.S. that it's getting a global spotlight put on it. And everybody is watching. I can tell you, I woke up to my friends who are partners of ours in Germany at Deutsche Telekom already commenting on the stuff that they just saw last night because, number one, I keep saying it's unmissable when you see the Sphere and the 5G zone that we put together. And they love Magenta in the European market. So I think we've done them proud. But I went to a screening of a CNBC documentary on the business of F1 yesterday. It was fascinating to hear, we talk about Drive to Survive in the Netflix series, but what it's bringing in is actually really young kids, boys and girls, that don't normally start to talk about stuff. But what they're doing is they're getting engaged and they're getting their parents engaged. So you've got this whole new emerging audience that you might miss if you're not participating in this.
So I think in a little bit we're going to open it up for questions, so start thinking. But you talked about that next generation, and obviously the next generation is very much living on digital. So you talked about the in-person experience. Obviously there's the TV component. You mentioned some of the TikTok influencers. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're really making sure that this partnership and really all your partnerships are seen across digital and social?
I'll take it and then you can go there. We approach everything as a 360-degree view of how you surround a consumer. It's not, yes, there's advertising. Of course there's advertising. Yes, there's on-premise, and you talk about that. If you walk down the strip to the T-Mobile store, straight from T-Mobile Arena, you can't miss it. We call it a signature store. We've basically recreated the store. It has a simulator of an F1 car. It has racetracks. It's an immersive experience that we try to build for a lot of people that might not ever go to the race. It's just another place, people who are just in town. So we try to do that. And then we absolutely use the digital platforms, and we use them both for what we call T-Mobile, general consumers, and then our business partners. When I talked about content that we're creating, we're posting content for TFB because we want to express the network build that we did for F1, but we don't want to wait till F1's over. We want it in real time every single day. The creators that we've talked about, and actually my entire social team, we're not just doing creative content, that just happens to be how we are approaching TikTok. Our entire social ecosystem has also been going pretty much nonstop all week, with just generating new and different content from just different vantage points. And again, it's a fan experience. Like T-Mobile Zone, we didn't even talk about. We have something called Club Magenta, which is within the Sphere zone. It's a mini club, let's call it, for about 200 guests, and 100 of them get VIP treatment because they're T-Mobile customers. We bring you upstairs. So again, we're trying to extend fan experience well beyond just attending an event. We want to make it an experience none other to really uniquely branded T-Mobile.
Cool. And so, again, you're talking about so many different stakeholders. You're talking about in real life. You're talking about linear. You're talking about digital. I can see why you guys are excited about this partnership, and it's going to have amazing results. But sometimes when something is so expansive, it makes it a little harder to measure those results. How do you guys think about, whether in terms of KPIs or how you're tracking, how will you know that this is an A+ partnership coming out of it?
I actually think, there's a couple of different ways. We work with a company called MarketCast that does a lot of primary research for us across the board. We also definitely look at more traditional broadcast metrics. But honestly, I think one of the things that is unique about F1 and just all of the hosting and hospitality that we're doing with customers and businesses, it will be measurable based on business we get back. Leads that are generated, talking to new companies, business with existing companies, unlocking additional value via current relationships. So that's something that we've put a lot of rigor around, making sure that, hey, we have a wealth of high value hospitality. Let's make sure it's going to the right places. And we've got T-Mobile for Business, our wholesale team, T-Ads, which is a new media arm that we're setting up, and then strategic partners and business development. All of them have an allocation that they're using, and hopefully it's fruitful and business comes out of it.
And then just from a content standpoint, engaging on platforms like TikTok or on Instagram, getting people to do the next click. We take you to a website, we talk more about our brand and other things that you can do. So there's also judgment. You're not going to go to a complete consumer sale, but if I can get you to engage in content because of that one and get you to make one more click over to other content that we want to serve you, and then you become a great place to retarget with other messaging. It could be about the network, it could be about our holiday offers. It is prime time we're in holiday season right now, and just to raise the awareness of your brand at something like this during a major holiday shopping season, I think we'll see, I guarantee we will see a lift in store traffic because of this.
Amazing. And so I agree with you. I think you will. But so let's fast forward to 2 weeks from now, right? Maybe you have a big sigh of relief, but I'm guessing the work is not over in the sense of you have all of this content. How do you plan to leverage everything coming out of this event from a content relationship, et cetera, standpoint?
I think the first thing that we'll probably want to do is update a lot of the footage in the TV creative that, we're using placeholder legacy F1 footage. We'd love to actually take, obviously footage from this event. You can talk about other.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what Mike just said, all of our content has been based upon, we haven't been able to create any new content. We started literally filming stuff last night, and we will update everything from our broadcast spots that we currently have on air, our T-Mobile for Business website. Like I said, we're curating them almost in real time, so we're not waiting 2 weeks. We're waiting 24 hours. I mean, there will be something up this afternoon on their website, and that will continue to evolve as more narratives and more things come up. And then, you talk about 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, it's like we're talking already. We've got to start talking baseball season. It's like we're not like it's
SEC champion first, but then baseball.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the folks in the audience obviously also work at brands or agencies, but a lot of them also work at publishers or are either current partners or potential partners. So I'm curious, at this point it feels like a no-brainer, but I'm sure, the first conversation you had with F1, nothing is a no-brainer to begin with. Are there elements that they talked about or ways that they presented what F1 is that really, captured your imagination and made you think that this could be something really big for T-Mobile?
It goes back to the connectivity story. And if we're going to invest top dollars in any partnership right now, it needs to not only serve as a marketing vehicle, but also a proof point. And again, help us push the envelope on, the capabilities of 5G. And really, if we can deliver partnerships that do just that, it unlocks a much richer, creative territory for Peter and his team to help tell that story. So I think that's first and foremost part of our evolution. It's something that we're looking at moving forward.
I mean, you should talk a little bit about just our belief is that our technology and 5G technology has the ability to help sports transform and modernize in lots of different ways. So we're not just, doing it with F1. We've done it with baseball. We've been working with
PGA of America coming. Yeah.
PGA of America. It's like each one of these things have there's unique opportunities to just push advancements because the power of what the world of 5G is untapped at this moment in time. Because right now it's just a new evolution of the network. There's so much more to come. And that's where our belief is. That's why you get it with partners like F1 and PGA of America and MLB. It's the stuff that we've been in beta really with MLB. It's pretty, could change the game of baseball in the future.
In our previous conversations and today, you've talked a lot about the disruption. Obviously being a Fortune 40 company, you could say you've sort of already succeeded, but I can see, even just in your eyes, like the disruptive nature that must exist internally at T-Mobile. How do you think about really translating that through marketing vehicles as well so that consumers understand that?
I don't know if people know, we've positioned ourselves as what we call the uncarrier. It has a very challenger-esque nature to who the brand was. Now, you could be a challenger when you were T-Mobile, call it 6 years ago. It's really hard to be that same challenger as we now are the second largest wireless provider in the US, and we're the largest provider of 5G globally. That was just announced this week because of our build and how we've executed the power of that. So what does that mean and what do we do? Our belief is we're not going to stop what we've done. I think what you're going to see is in how we've pivoted our brand is we're going to be more of the champion to the consumer versus the challenger on behalf of the consumer. And a champion steps up and still does what a challenger does, but it takes it from a point of authority versus from having to lean back. We're constantly leading in. We're always looking around corners at what's going to be the next thing that consumers are going to want and need, and go figure out ways to deliver it to them. And it's just, our platforms are just much bigger. I mean, the scale is much bigger. What we disrupted for the consumer wireless space, we need to go disrupt for the business customer. And that's kind of like that next chapter that we're pursuing in real time right now.
Amazing. Okay, so with that, we're going to open it up for questions. Looks like there's a mic over here. Don't be shy.
Good morning. Peter, I just wanted to congratulate us. When I think about kind of the wireless industry, it really started as a utilitarian choice. And I think T-Mobile is one of the first brands that really stood for something, and it made sense as a consumer to make that choice. Knowing that now and becoming this champion for the consumer, what's your vetting process look like when you look at what activations are coming at you in a world where everyone needs a wireless solution?
Well, you know, again, we sort of take everything and put the customer first, no matter what customer it happens to be or what industry they happen to be in. So as we look and how we approach the marketplace, and anything from how we develop the offers that we put in for our postpaid business, consumer wireless business, to how we attack the business wireless category, we're always looking to be differentiated to what our competitors have. Because what's happened over the course of the last 10 years of what we call the Un-carrier, our competitors have sort of done the same things that we have done. So we're sitting at a time where churn in our category is at a historic low, basically across the board. And you know, churn used to be T-Mobile was the leader in having the most churn. We now, last quarter, were the lowest in churn in the category, beating out Verizon, which is just, you know, for me to say it, I'm like, it's mind-boggling that I can even sit up on a stage and actually say that. But what is challenging is you have to create the momentum for the brands today, because the switching pool is just doesn't exist. It's not happening as frequently. And there are moments, you know, in our category, I'll be quite honest with you, new device launches, big time for switching. Holiday shopping, another time for switching. And you have to capitalize upon it, and you have to take risks. Like, is it going to work? And if it doesn't work, you have to be nimble enough to change it. And that's sort of what we have to do. And I don't want to say that we don't have a vision of where marketing goes in the future. We have a very, very clear path forward, but we always know that marketing can only be as good as if it's effective. And if you launch something and it doesn't work, pull out of it and go try something different. And that's how we've approached the market.
Well, good time for one more, if anyone has another question.
Based on that last point, does that mean that all of the sort of brand work you're doing is really centered on actually just trying to create love from your existing customer base to kind of maintain that level?
That is number one, that's a great question, because what's really fascinating about that, you know, when I started at T-Mobile, and I do have, it'll be a fast answer, we had like less than 40 million customers. So it was all about acquisition. We're sitting at around 118 million customers now. So your view of the world has to shift. It has to shift because it's way cheaper to keep a customer than to acquire a customer. So doing what's really, you know, special for them. And we have, I will tell you, some of the most interesting programs. We have T-Mobile Tuesdays, and there's a Tuesday every week, and our customers get free stuff from us every single week. And all you have to do is download the app. You don't have to spend more money. You don't have to do anything. It's all for being a customer at T-Mobile. So we sort of pride ourselves that when we engage with them. We're also working really hard on all of our infrastructure internally at T-Mobile right now to get much more advanced and way better, leveraging the ability of AI. Because our belief is we should actually know why our customers call before they call us, because we have enough information already, but we have to pull all the pieces together. And I think that is that next crank and turn for us as a business to actually get way better, both at keeping our current customers and then still giving us the ability, because it is I'll be honest with you, when you're act like a startup, it's also a growth that you have to deliver to the street. So growth is still a very important part of what we have to do as a business and a brand.
All right, let's give it up.